Batman vs. Superman, the Ultimate Edition. Was it better than I expected? Did it fix the movie? Is it the movie we were all waiting but we never really got to see in theaters? Eh. Batman vs. Superman, directed by Zack Snyder and released this year, 2016. Um, with a lot of mixed reactions, a lot of mixed reviews. Some people loved it, some people hated it. You cannot be in the middle with this movie. You either love it or you hate it. It was the same with reviewers. Uh, the executives said they loved it right before the opening when they were screening it for the executives. They said it was great. It was going to change the cinematic universe for their franchise for everybody. Uh, and then the movie came out and it didn't quite deliver. Um, why? Now that I had a chance to see the Ultimate Edition with the added extra minutes, you can see that sometimes executive decisions aren't exactly the best. A lot of the scenes that were cut from the theatrical release actually could have explained some of the plot holes that a lot of people were concerned or voicing when the movie came out. At the same time, many of the scenes left in the movie should have been cut because they really didn't add anything to the story. They didn't move the story forward. And ultimately, uh, the movie remains the same. Yep, I'm sorry to say, uh, the movie is still just as good or as bad as it was when it came out in theaters, at least for me. Why? All right. The added scenes did provide a better movie within itself. Like the way the pacing went with the extra 30 minutes made for a more cohesive and understandable type of movie. A lot of the plot holes that were not explained in the theatrical version are explained here. Like, why are people uh, hating Superman? In the theatrical version, everybody's just bashing on Superman because of all the terrible things he apparently did. But we're like throughout the whole movie, we're like, why would they blame Superman for this, for terrorist attacks? Okay, now in the deleted scenes, we can see that they actually burn people and they make it look like Superman used his heat vision to burn them. So there was a little bit more explanation on why. And of course, the extra scenes with Superman flying or destroying the missiles in midair, that was really fun. And that is something that I always said about Zack Snyder. His movies are like visual homages to the comic books. Visually, the movie is incredible. Visually, the movie is great. Every time you see Superman on screen, he's like, oh, Superman's there. But that's it. It's just a a very good visual representation of these characters. The problem is still the story or the core of the story, the heart of the characters. And the extra minutes of footage did not add anything to that. Um, in narrative, when you want to have conflict, um, there has to be a stark difference between one character and the other. That's why Marvel's been doing it a little bit better, and that's why you bought into the conflict during Civil War between Tony Stark and Steve Rogers, Iron Man and Captain America, because they build that tension and they build that stark difference between characters, the way they think, the way they see the world, the way they see every situation. You can see what their mind and their heart is. So ultimately, you understand why, even if they're the good guys, they come to blows or they come to a fork in the path where they have to decide which way they're going to take. And that's why that narrative worked better. In Batman versus Superman, we're supposed to buy that Batman is going to battle Superman or that they have to battle because it's in the title. Because the characters are pretty much the same. They are both dark, they are both broody, they are both losing hope in humanity, in their own personal lives. On the one side, Batman is like, after 20 years, how many people stayed good in this city? Hinting that probably Joker and all the theories that maybe he was Robin at some point. And on the other hand, Superman is like the Superman was never real. It was just a dream of a farmer. And they both have lost hope in their own personal lives. They are both broody. They are both distrusting of the other character simply because they're supposed to. Uh, in the Ultimate Edition, there are parts where they explain a little bit more of the Clark Kent arc, which was actually very good because it does give you that better idea why Clark would be against Bruce's ideology or the Batman's way of acting in this movie. However, they are both always at the defensive. They are both perceived as something not positive. So in the end, why would they fight if they are pretty much on the same side? They could pretty much just get together and say, you know what? Let's fix the world of the problems. Let's just kill all the bad guys. Let's just fix all the problems because humanity is lost and we're the only ones that can do something about it. That would actually make more sense. Um, and again, when it came to the actual way the confrontation took place, the plot holes are still there. Uh, why can't Superman just show up and say, I need your help? They kidnapped my mother, and this maniac has her, and he says that if I don't come here and kill you, then he's going to kill her, so I need you to help me. No, he just waits and waits and waits and waits till the very end when he's almost dead. He doesn't learn anything throughout the fight. A lot of the arguments in Man of Steel when people were saying, why would Superman do that or why wouldn't he do something else? And a lot of the defenders of the movie were saying, well, this is his first time out. He's never done this before. He's not a seasoned superhero. He's just donning the suit for the first time. He's doing the best he can because he doesn't know any better. Okay, what about now? He still hasn't learned. He was able to take down Kryptonians in hand-to-hand combat, train soldiers from another planet, and he was able to hold his own. Now he can't do that, even with more experience. Um, Fight a man in an armor suit doesn't make sense. I know a lot of the Bat fans, and I'm a Bat fan too. I mean, I love Batman. He's my second favorite character in DC. But still, it wouldn't make sense for them to have a fight and Superman not win under any scenario. But this is not that kind of video. We're not going to go into that. It's just the movie. The plot holes are still there. He doesn't learn anything throughout the fight, even though he was clearly on top of things at the beginning before he was hit with the kryptonite. And you would say, all right, the kryptonite grenade was a surprise. He wasn't expecting that. But the second time around, he should have been able to detect that was coming. He already regained some of his strength back, some of his speed back. He could have just ripped Batman's armor apart and just end the conflict right there and say, listen, this is what's going on, A, B, C, D, E, and everything else that happened. So, did the Ultimate Edition fix all of this? No, because the narrative pretty much stayed the same. At core, the characters stayed the same. And in my personal opinion, out of character. It doesn't mean that Superman cannot be sad, cannot get angry, cannot get frustrated, cannot have those feelings of frustration that make him wanna, sorry, touch the wrong button there, that wouldn't make him wanna quit every once in a while. But on unfortunately, uh, that's how he stays in the movie. Um, he doesn't overcome that by saying, I still believe in humanity. I still believe that there's good in the world. I still believe that they just uh, need someone to kind of show them the way or to inspire them. Or even if he doesn't believe in them, he should believe in himself. He could be the one saying, you know what, even if it's all messed up, I cannot just accept it that everything is wrong. I have to do something about it. Um, Batman, on the other side, we know that his methods are different. Yes, he is intimidating. Yes, he looked great as Ben Affleck looked great as Batman in the movie, but still, he's a guy that's lost all hope. He's killing people around, and you cannot say he didn't because he's killing people left and right. And even in the extended version of the fight, which is a lot bloodier, You can see that he's just stabbing people. He's like, I didn't just cut you or stab you to hinder you, to slow you down. He's coming in like, man, you're done. Uh, like there's hatred, like it's personal. So all of these things are out of character for me. Some people are loving it. Some people are saying that it's great. That the problems with the movie are of a different nature. For me, that's the problem. Um, so did the extra 30 minutes make the movie better? Well, it made the movie within itself better in the sense that it gave it more cohesion. Um, Even though it's 30 minutes longer, it makes the movie feel shorter because it flows better, because things are explained and they make sense within the movie. The reason why I don't like it is because I believe um, they're not showing us these characters and what they're supposed to be, heroes who inspire people in spite of all the terrible things going around us. Um, so that was the main problem. And one of the things is, I don't think the producers had a clear vision of this movie coming out. I remember John Campia over Collider when it was still AMC Movie Talk, and the announcement was made for the next movie. And when people were saying, "Where's the Superman sequel?" and John Campia was saying, like, "When did they say that? They never said that." And I was like, John, they did at Comic Con when Zack Snyder came out and they said, yes, we're making another one. We're making another Superman movie. And then they announced, with Harry Lennox is his name, uh, and they did a little bit from the Dark Knight Returns adaptation, the novel, the graphic novel, and people went crazy. And at the beginning, it was okay. It's not okay, now it's not a Superman movie, it's a Superman and Batman movie. And then it became Justice League. And then it became Death of Superman. So it's like they kept putting elements in because they never trusted the characters to be able to carry out an interesting story, a touching story, an inspirational story. They just needed elements to make it visually appealing. So they didn't trust that Superman could carry a movie alone on his own, so they brought in Batman to have that visual dynamic of Batman and Superman. And then that wasn't enough. No, we got to bring in Wonder Woman. And she was amazing. She was great. Don't get me wrong. I love her, and her movie is coming out, and the trailer looks amazing. But now they put her in. And now, oh, now we got to show, Aquaman, and we got to show The Flash. And we got to have Doomsday, and we got to kill Superman. And it's like, they didn't have to do that. They had so much material to make more movies with everything they tried to put in this one. So in the end, one thumb up for the visuals and one thumb down for the actual story. So do I recommend you go out and you get yourself a copy? Well, I leave it up to you. You know why? Because if you're a fan and you want to have your complete collection like I'm trying to do, go and get the copy. At least at some point you can just create a montage of all the visual and awesomeness that it is a Zack Snyder movie, even if it's not really a Superman movie for me. And I don't want to talk about it anymore, which connects with what I said previously about Marvel, and which is the second part of this video. Who's better, Marvel or DC? The MCU or the DCU? Okay, here's the thing. I don't think one is better than the other. I think they're different and their characteristics are different. So, just like different characters within their universes, some people are going to be more attracted toward a particular type character than others. So, I believe that as readers, you will always be more attracted towards one house or the other. And it's not just DC or Marvel, it could be maybe you're the type of guy who likes IDW because you like the stories on Ninja Turtles or Ghostbusters. Or maybe you're a Dark Horse comic, and I don't even know if Dark Horse comics is still around because I haven't seen a Dark Horse comic in a long time. I think Marvel and DC are pretty much the same thing. It's not that one is better than the other, it's just they are different type of characters in themselves. Um, DC's characters have always been a little bit more. deep, a little bit more darker. There's a little bit more of conflict, of loss. When Marvel is always been more about surpassing that particular initial dark time and then concentrating on the brighter future of the heroes. DC's always seem that they keep motivated by constantly being reminded of the pain before. So I believe that makes for a more mature type audience or a different or just simply a different type of audience. Um, if we take parallels, like let's say um, Daredevil versus Batman, right? We know what happened to Daredevil and why he became the Daredevil. Uh, but that's like, all right, that's in the past. He's not constantly remembering why his father was killed, uh, why he lost his vision. It's just like, all right, now I have these powers. Let's just go out there and kick some butt. Or the Punisher, right? He was created because of the terrible laws that he had. But then all the stories, once you get past that, they focus on how brutal he's going to be making people pay. However, in Batman, even when they make new movies, it's like we know the origins of Batman. Mm-mm. They keep showing us how his parents got killed. That scene in the alley where Bruce is there with his parents laying on the ground. And every time that Batman story is retold, they always go back to the same point. It's like when they created Batman versus not Batman versus Superman, but Batman Superman, the comic book back in the early 2000s. Um, where in the first panel you have Superman and everything is bright and he's like, it was the best day of my life when he was found by the Kents and he was raised in this nurturing, loving family. Then you turn the page and like it was the worst day of my life when my parents were killed in front of me and everything is dark and broody. It's like the DC characters are always motivated by their pasts, by what happened in their personal lives, who they are as people, rather than just the action in itself. And I think Marvel focuses more on the action in itself, even though, of course, just in any narrative, in any storytelling, you need conflict. So every Marvel story will always be motivated by conflict, but it's usually the conflict at the moment rather than the result of previous stories or previous actions. They don't tend to dwell too much on that part when DC uh, keeps reminding their characters that they're on this path because of what happened. I don't know if that makes sense for you guys, but at least that's my interpretation. Now, when it comes to the MCU versus the DCU, like who's winning or who's doing a better job, I'm a DC guy, but I'm gonna have to give it to Marvel. Why? But understand the why. Is not that Marvel has better characters. Is not that uh, Marvel has a better produ- production value in the sense of visual effects and acting and things like such. Because if you look at Man of Steel, if you look at the new trailers for Wonder Woman, if you saw Batman versus Superman, visually, I believe they can even surpass what happens with Marvel. But understand, Marvel is still under the reins of Stan Lee. He is still the head honcho there. His word is still valid. So when he says, I don't think this character would do this, and I don't think the story would go in that direction, or when he says, you know what, you bring an interesting point, let's go with that. Let's try that in this movie. I think the character would be okay doing that. Uh, the creative effort behind it is still there, so the stories are a lot more faithful in Marvel to their original comic book characters than on DC. Why? There is no head of creative arts that is not an artist. There's no one who is a true artist or a true creator or someone who loves the character in control of what happens in the DCU. In the DCU, why? Because DC is owned by Warner's. So the executives at Warner use their DC license to make money. and they can do whatever they want because they own the characters, they own DC. So when they say, well, we want a Joker that is a psychopath, no, we want a Joker who's an anarchist, no, we want a Joker who's a clown, we want long hair, we want short hair, we want tattoos, we want scars, they can do whatever they want because they own the characters. And on every new movie they create, they try to create the best product to sell to as many customers to make as much money as possible. They don't care about the artistic vision, they don't care about the characters, they only care about making money. And in the process, they bring in people who apparently know about the characters just enough to give us just enough of what we want to make the movie interesting. But they are never thinking, let's make movies for the fans. Let's make movies that inspire, that have a message, that make these people love these characters. No, they don't. That's why they said, you know what would be cool? Batman killing people, stabbing people. He's dark, he's sad, he's angry. All right, fine. You own the character. I guess you can do that if you want. So that's what happens. Uh, and again, if we go back to Marvel, if an executive says, "Why don't we make Spider-Man do this?" Stanley would come in and say, "Mm-mm, you cannot do that because that is not within the spirit of Spider-Man. That is not within his character. Yes, you can change his look. Yeah, you can sort of adapt his personality to fit this particular story, but at heart, he has to remain the same character." We saw it from Tobey Maguire to Andrew Garfield, and now with I forgot his name. Um, that even though they change physically, there is still that vulnerability there to the character. Um, they went a little broodier, a little darker with Andrew Garfield. They made him a little more emo for my taste. But at the same time, you can see how Spider-Man is one way when he's Peter, and then when he puts on the suit, you can see the change in personality, and that is something that they kept in a way from movie to movie. When in DC, you can see how the characters completely change when it's either Adam West doing Batman, to when it's Michael Keaton doing Batman, to when it's Val Kilmer, to when it's George Clooney, to when it is um uh I'm drawing blanks on names today. To the new to Christian Bale, and now to Ben Affleck. And it's the same thing, uh, especially lately with the television adaptations of Superman, because there hasn't been that many movies. And in contrast, if you go back and you see Kirk Allen, or if you see George Reeves, or if you see Bob Holliday on theater, or if you see Dean Cain or Christopher Reeve, they all embodied that innocence, that good character, that good heart, and yet at the same time, fun aspect of Superman. But that's not how it is today. They don't think a character like this could be cool, so they change him into whatever they think would be cool, into a darker, broodier, more violent type Superman, rather than remain the character that is inspiring to other people. So when it comes to MCU versus DCU, that's the main difference. Marvel has the advantage that they have someone in charge. They can look after the characters and make sure they are portrayed as faithful as possible. And that's why Marvel films remain a little bit more colorful, a little bit more fun. And that's the problem that we have in DC, that the people in charge, people with the last word on anything, are executives, and not someone to say, no, we cannot have the character do that. No, the character wouldn't do this. No, this is something that the character has to do, whether you like it or not, because this comes within the character. Uh, DC doesn't have that. They have executives who are trying to make money. So when it comes to the cinematic universe, that's why I enjoy Marvel films a little bit better because of that. Because yes, I'm a DC guy. I grew up with DC. I love them, but I also grew up with Marvel. And Spider-Man is my favorite character in the Marvel universe, and I love the X-Men, and I'm enjoying every movie that Marvel puts out, just as a comic book fan. And I want to love the DC films, but unfortunately I can't because there's no one there who cares enough to say this is what could or should be done with our characters. They're just properties who are trying to make money. So this comes back to me saying, you know what? I would be fine with whatever DC puts out as long as they just put an Elseworlds thing uh, logo in the credits at some point, and then I would be like, okay, it's an Elseworlds. Anything can happen in Elseworlds because it's not the original timeline. This is not the real character. It's Elseworlds. Um, and then that's why I end up having these silly conversations when people say, "Why do you like Superman? He's such a horrible character." And I was like, "How can you say that? Remember that when this and this and this happened?" And like, I never saw that. Like, well, it's in comic book, and it's in Action Comics, it's in Adventures, it's in Men of Steel number whatever. And they're like, "When did that happen in the movie?" Unfortunately, a large part of the population, they know these characters because of TV shows or because of movies. And if it didn't happen on the TV show and if it didn't happen in the movie, it didn't happen for them. And they know these characters because of what they've seen on screen rather than the comic book history, which is longer, where we've had a lot more stories that have shaped and created characters in a way that is completely different than what's on screen. Why? Because when you make a movie or a TV show of a particular character, it has to fit that form of narrative. What looks good on comic book pages is not always going to look good on screen, so they have to change suits. We understand that. Unfortunately, is like, what happened in that comic book is silly. It's silly for you, but not for the millions of people who read the story and were touched by the story. And they say, you know what'd be cool if this character here did this on screen, and then they make something that is cool for them rather than concentrating, okay, why would this character do this in the comic? Let's try to understand the character. What is the character about? Why would he do or why wouldn't he do something? um, so they make him do things in movies that really make fans like me angry. All right, and it's happened a lot. It doesn't mean that Marvel always gets it right. Mandarin, Iron Man. So that's it. So when it comes to the comic books, I believe that people can be attracted to either one. They can have their favorites. It doesn't mean you have to absolutely love one and hate the other. No, it just means that you're just going to be attracted to one particular type stories. Um, there's no, I don't think Marvel is better than DC or DC is better than Marvel. They're just different things that can be enjoyed for what they are, and you can enjoy whatever you want because it touches you on a personal matter. And when it comes to the movies, yep, I think Marvel is winning, but because they have the advantage of having someone who actually cares behind the camera as a part of the production team. DC doesn't have that. We have executives at Warner's, and that sucks, man. It really does. All right, so there's my take. I've been wanting to talk about the whole Marvel versus DC. I finally got it out of my chest. Finally talked about it. If I want to talk about it more in other videos, I could, but I really wanted to get this one out there. Wanted to talk about the movie, and we talked about it. And now for the promotion. I announced it on the video before. Um, Click like, share, subscribe, but most importantly, leave a comment. I want to hear from you. What are your opinions? Which one do you like better? Marvel, DC? Who's winning? MCU, DCU? Do you love the film? Have you had a chance to check the Ultimate Edition? What would be the next DC film you would like to see? I don't know. Drop a line down below and let me know. And what I'm gonna do is look at all of those comments and I'm gonna do a little raffle. I'm gonna pick one of you guys and I'm going to send you the copy, the link for for the digital download, so you can download it to your computer, to your tablet, your iPad, whatever, the device of your choice. And that's gonna be my gift to you guys. All right. So let me know what's up, and again, till next time, I'll see you at the movies.